Today on Gamer's Couch,
Pathfinder, the adventure card game.
Hi everybody!
Hello, welcome to the couch.
The most important couch in the house, the Gamer's Couch.
And not the only one, but in fact the
Most
only
important one.
both of us can fit on.
No, not true. We fit on that one as well. No, so this week has been the first week that we're kind of back to normal with our gaming schedule, meaning that I had time to play games with him after dinner, and we also had our gaming night. So this week we played a couple of rounds of Quicks, Love Letter and Pathfinder, the game that we acquired recently and that we're gonna talk about today.
Wrong. Ta-da!
That's so pretty!
And in case you people actually want to be able to see this, I'll try to hold it so that it doesn't reflect the light. And as you can see, this is not a small box.
No, it's huge.
So
it fits perfectly, like millimeter-wise, into the IKEA Expedit, totally usual gaming
and only
shelf.
with the smaller side.
Yeah, but it fits. Don't worry, we made it fit.
Yeah, that's so that box serves two purposes. First of all, getting you the game in your hands and holding further expansions, as well as being able to kill other players that you don't agree with just by
dumping the box onto their head.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's start with talking about how the game is played. Pathfinder is essentially about us being heroes in the world of Pathfinder and battling the evil foes, trying to find and beat them. And that pretty much sums up the entire game. Mm-hmm. Each turn you play, you will draw one of these nice scenario cards that describe to you whom you're fighting and also where you're fighting them, listing each individual place that you might go, like the academy, no wards for you there, or the prison and so on. And as you might have guessed by now and by the title, it's a card game. So the entire game pretty much consists out of a big box of cards. If you now have shivers of Dominion going over your back, that's not too far away, because Pathfinder is also a deck building game. So what each player does at the beginning, you choose one hero. I think there's 6 or 8 in there. I think it's 6.
Some. Let's go with some, because we had the first expansion already put in as well. So yeah,
we are terribly prepared for this. So let's say I'm going with Harsk the dwarf, who's also some kind of wood whatever guy rogue.
He looks a bit like Gimli, but Gimli with depression and anger management issues.
Depression Gimli, yeah.
Depression Gimli.
So after you choose your character, you can take a look at his card that will list what type of cards go into his deck. And at the beginning, you start out with pretty beginning standard equipment. That will then range from weapons to spells, armor, some devices that you can take into battle that might help you, like lockpicks or something like that. And you can also bring allies, so there you can already see it, as in every role-playing game. You might have a different character build in terms of abilities. The fighter is better and has more weapons. The diplomatic guy has more allies.
Charisma.
And so on. And on the other side, you have a whole bunch of abilities that you can draw on. These are, again, your very standard fare role-playing abilities, like strength and dexterity and intelligence and so on, as well as some derived abilities. If you're a really good fighter, then you have melee, which is the same as strength, but a little bit better, because it gives you plus something on it. And each of those is assigned a dice value, so that will come in later when we talk about how to pass checks and how to go beyond obstacles. But once you've picked your character and picked out your starting deck, you're pretty much ready to go for adventure. As I said, you would typically choose a scenario, and the scenario lists the places, and the place lists the type of cards that go into this place. So this one, like the Academy says, there's only one monster in there, one obstacle, but 5 spells. So each location also has some kind of card characteristic, how it is set together, as well as monsters. And last but not least, the objective of the game, the villain. In this case, someone called Scotch whiskey.
With a V, not a W.
And it wouldn't be some typical adventure villain if they don't come with henchmen. So what will happen is we will play in a number of locations, try to find the villain, and then beat him in a way that he cannot flee from us. So let's say we're only playing together, and we might have a scenario that says we're playing in 4 locations. What will happen is we have our villain, and he will bring 3 henchmen that will all get randomly distributed upon these 4 locations. So we don't really know where he is. And then comes the eternal question for every role-playing game. Do we split the party? We could, because our chances of finding the villain are well, bigger with that. The problem is, once you find the villain, he will flee from you to any left open location. So the entire game revolves around going from location to location, trying to either close it by defeating the henchman or doing some other interesting stuff, or finding the villain and beating him and forcing him to flee somewhere else, where other characters can block the location they're currently in. So that leaves an interesting play. If you're playing with multiple people, you might literally spread out across the entire countryside and be at different locations at once. And once you find the evil guy, if everybody else is able to close down their locations, you can pin him down there and beat him at once. And once you've beat him, you have won. That's pretty much it. Along the way, you have to defeat and overcome certain obstacles and monsters. And let's take a look at one of the monsters here. So this elite goblin needs you to fight him, and every card comes with a check number. So for monsters that you have to fight, it says here combat 9, and you would go with your either melee skill and roll your whatever 12-sided die to roll a 9 or better. Similarly, if you're finding an ally, you might roll a check on diplomacy or charisma to convince them to join your cause and fight the evil guy. And if not, they're going shopping, so they're leaving the field, going back into the box and lost forever for this.
In a mall.
For this adventure, yeah, in a mall.
Never to be found again.
Of course, rolling 9s on a 12-sided dice is not always that easy. So those cards you start with typically give you some kind of bonus, like this sword will allow me to add another 6-sided dice to my roll and then do something interesting with it. Or what else do we have? We have a light crossbow that adds 1 8-sided die to that. So as you can see, the better equipment gives you better bonuses, and the way it works, most of these cards work in a way like you have them on hand, and if you want to use them, you show them and then put them back in your hand. So your hand almost acts as if it's like some way reflecting the equipped stuff you're carrying around with you. You don't really lose it by using it up, except for maybe a potion or a spell or something like that. But your trusty sword will go with you, unless
you fumble. Unless
you have a really, really bad guy to beat. That mountain troll from Lord of the Rings also came in this box, and
yeah.
He's pretty hard to beat, so you might want to throw your sword at him for an additional 6-sided die, which doesn't sound too thematic, but it works, and that's the important thing. So if you throw your stuff, you have to regenerate it. So what it means is you take your card and you don't discard it, but you put it under your deck.
Which gives you another chance to win,
get it back,
because your deck is your life.
Yes.
Pretty much in any other adventure. card games.
Which brings us to the point: how do we actually lose the game?
Multiple
Again,
choices here,
as with all cooperative games, multiple choices to lose,
and only
just
one way to win.
Exactly. So
we didn't prepare this speech.
So what you also have is a deck of 30 cards, and once you turn start, you have to discard one of these cards, and once they run out, you lose the game. So you're always on a 30-round timer.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, that doesn't change if you play with more than 2 or 1 or 3 players. So you always only have 30 turns to find the villain. However, having more players adds more locations.
So there's the balance point.
Yeah. Which we might talk about later if we found that more difficult or not. Also, a way to lose, or at least for you to not participate in that adventure anymore, is to die. As with every hero who might go the way of the dodo, and some people are more
You might
prone
know
to
why
dying.
he was looking at me. But then again, later.
So the way it works, if you take combat damage, so if you don't make that check against your combat rating, you take damage in amount of the missed roll. So let's say you have to beat the 9, you rolled a 6, you take 3 points of combat damage, which if you have an armor you can reduce that, but let's stick with it. If I'm taking 3 points of damage, it essentially just means I have to discard 3 cards from my hand, and that's it. At the end of my turn, I have always to draw up to my hand limit or a hand maximum, which is, let's say, 5 or 6 cards. If at that point my deck is empty and I can't draw any cards, I will die. And now you see why it's so important that some cards you just have to show and put under your deck again, versus you play the card and lose it forever, which essentially is like cutting yourself in the own flesh and shooting yourself in the foot, whatever you want to call it.
Or cut a limb.
Yeah. So if you want to throw that sword, you can do it, but you might lose it. And that means you can imagine it, maybe you really hit the troll with that flying sword in the eye, but then it bounces back and hits you on the elbow and you die bleeding out from your own sword.
Oh, I was thinking about having it in the stern of the troll and you wiggle waggle and you can't get it out anymore, and at one point you're just exhausted, like, ah, fuck it, I'm gonna go now.
Or he falls over.
Oh, he falls over.
So that's essentially it. You have monsters, you have to roll combat dice for monsters. Weapons aid you in modifying those dice. You might hit an obstacle, which is something like a rock slide. You can either ask an ally to help you carry it away, or maybe you have a pickaxe or a shovel which might help you, which is a tool to use there. But for each kind of obstacle there's some kind of useful card, and as I said earlier, everybody's playing a different class, so you have more or less of the one or the other card type, naturally making people more different in terms of how good are they with solving the thing. Also, apart from having different class cards, you also have different skills. So let's say this character is allowed to evade one monster, which is a special skill you have with pretty much everyone. Then you're typically only allowed to draw one location card from the location you're trying to resolve. But if you're playing the mage dude gets another pick at the cards if he draws a magical card and on his first turn. So each character has a little bit of a different ability set. Some are more helpful to other players, like
supporters. Then there's more the tank type.
Then,
like the fighter that is not good with supporting. Then you have the magician, the healer.
Yeah.
So every character has kind of like a base, but they have also parts that vary and that actually make the gameplay interesting.
Yeah. So,
or contribute.
So apart from picking cards of your locations to enhance your deck, and that's pretty much where the deck building comes in, at the end of the game you get to decide what of the precious loot that you got out of all the locations stays in your deck and will go with you to the next scenario.
Yeah.
So there's actually a pretty good incentive to keep playing this game and abandon all other games you ever have played, because there's a lot of adventures and scenarios to go through.
Yeah, well, or you just establish a schedule.
Yeah.
Friday through Sunday, Pathfinder, or the other days of the week, maybe other games. Things like that could work.
So if you see our last week's video about Shadowrun, this one uses a very similar mechanic, and I think this one actually predates Shadowrun, or you could say Shadowrun builds upon that idea that was presented with Pathfinder. You have character persistence. So not only do you have your little abilities, but I hope someone can see that, there's little checkboxes. So what happens is, if you beat villains often enough and are successful at doing so, like as in every role-playing game, again, you get to level up. So you are allowed to suddenly not only roll a 12-sided dice, but you are allowed to roll the 12-sided die and get a +3 on it, or you get a new ability, or you are allowed to hold more cards in your hand at the same time. And if you go even further, and this is where you sort of might or conjure the Final Fantasy job system. You may decide on advanced classes that, if this is your character card, go under your character card, adding even more glare to the camera and even more abilities to your character. And in this case, you can decide if you want to be an acrobat or a thief.
I go for the thief. Right away.
Okay.
Just saying.
So, while playing this game, your equipment deck, your abilities, your friends that you bring, your allies will get better, you will get better. So how does the game get better at beating you? Well, if you start out the game, you take cards at random from this card pool that is in here, and some refer to which adventure set you're using. And that is also the reason why the box is so big, because once you beat the first adventure set, you can buy expansions. And those expansions come in the form of those little card packs, adding new cards, new adventures, new enemies, and some instructions that you might have to remove that pesky, elite goblin that was, medium difficult in the first run. But in the second season of the show, so to speak, that goblin doesn't rise up to the occasion anymore. You're too powerful, so then they will have some more difficult enemies in there.
The ultra elite goblin.
+1.
+1, right. Yeah.
So that pretty much sums up the game. You have your deck, you advance your deck, you advance your character, you try to beat obstacles and monsters, find the evil guy and beat him, and, at the same time pinning him down, trying to keep him from escaping.
Yeah. You corner him pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
What did you like about the game?
Oh,
No, you didn't. So
no,
game is terrible.
No. The thing that I said that I didn't like. But let's go with what I liked first. I liked the characters, the artwork on it. I'm big on art, you know that. So I like the look and the feel of the game. The components are quite well done. They're not too flimsy, those cards. The character artwork is pretty, and it is consistent throughout all of the cards. You can see that either there's only one artist or there's two that have a very similar style, which I like. Also, once you start playing this game, it's fairly simple, meaning that you have the same turn every turn. You don't have to look into the manual too much. When you play it first round, you always have to. That's that's a given. But in this third and second or fourth round, you're pretty much okay. What I really did not like was the manual itself. It's not thick or weirdly written. It's a shitload of text and not really a lot of things like FAQ, or maybe just a rap sheet where you put all the different things together, like what you do when, how what does, for example, this card mean in comparison to Dingsbums erneuern? Refresh. Thanks. English. What does it mean? What exactly do you have to do? Things like that, like on one spreadsheet. However, thanks internet, somebody did that somehow on a tiny little flyer that you can print off the internet.
So there's Board Game Geek to the rescue.
Yeah, Board Game Geek, right. That was the thing that annoyed me in the beginning, and that urge to finally, well, we were waiting for the game for quite a bit, so I was really looking forward to play it, and had my fun with unpacking the game and sorting it into the box, which is like a highlight of the day for me, like with any game.
We don't play games, we just buy them,
we just unwrap them.
And
put them on the shelf and they look nice. Now, I really love that, that's why I'm allowed to punch all the stuff and unwrap the cards. So once that was done, I went to the manual and I was like on page 3 reading, is like, oh fuck no, YouTube, let's see if there's somebody who explains to me how that game works and I don't have to read through a shitload of text to get a glimpse of how that game actually runs. And
to the credit of Ulysses, who distribute
they have a
the
Let's
game
Play.
here. They have a Let's Play on the side in German, because if you haven't guessed, the Pathfinder Abenteuerkartenspiel is not English. This is the German version. This is actually the point why we're talking about a game that's been out in the US for quite some time. It just came out in German.
Yeah. True. But again, I liked that a lot, and what the game reminds me of, or what positive things of other games that it puts together in this particular one, is the deck building of Dominion, the fighting together against evil villain from Sentinels, the terrifying ways of losing and just the difficulty level of Shadowrun, and the world, so to say, of, well, it reminds me of Lord of the Rings a bit, or lots of Waterdeep.
Pathfinder is based up on Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. So these universes, they remind me of. So I liked that a lot. What about you?
I'll also start with the good things.
I'm sorry. Go.
What?
No, my original plan was to start with the shit that bugged me, so that the positive things could stay in the brains longer.
The terrible thing is, when you started talking about the things you like, those included quite a lot of things I don't like.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, go.
So we are on a different mind on that. What I do like about this is the idea of character persistence. I really like having these adventurous seasons to play through with friends and trying to work through different scenarios. I also like the idea of not playing cards, but sort of keeping them on your hand and refreshing them and doing interesting strategical things where you are considering, that card might be useful later, or I discard it now, which is sort of, I'm taking a wound here, but maybe the healer dude can heal me again and do some interesting stuff. Then again, you try to figure out with your friends, where will you go, what are you good at beating in terms of the location deck, what cards are in there, are there more magical things in there. So that's something I greatly enjoyed. In terms of not so much enjoying, I find the artworks of the cards a bit bland. If you look at this sad little sword,
but it's just good with the character, so it has to be bland.
On the background, yeah, but even for some of the monsters and all that stuff, it's like, yeah, well.
I actually liked it because it's different than any other game. It doesn't try to copy.
Just saying, I found it a little bit bland. It's not a showstopper at all, mind you, but that's certainly one of the points in direct comparison to other games like Shadowrun. Comes off as a little bit bland, but then again, comparing it to other deck building games like say Dominion, this is still way better than that in terms of the art that's on there. Similarly, what you said, liking the sameness of the turns, I was looking for. I hope that there's maybe later on a little bit more mechanical diversity in there, because it's literally always the same. You draw a card, there's a number on that card. You look what die you're allowed to roll, what cards you have to modify that die. Then you roll the die, and the next person takes his turn, and that describes pretty much every turn you're doing, which is fine.
It's enough because you have to beat a shitload of monsters.
And that might be just an experience we had yesterday. I think this is perfectly fine if you're playing this game for 30 to 40 minutes. Yesterday, and we take this with a grain of salt because two of our guys played this for the first time, so there was a lot of explaining to. But it took us 3 hours to go through one scenario, and if those 3 hours always consist of the same roll the die and see if you make the thing, I can see that getting old quite fast.
It was 2.5 hours.
Oh, two. Yeah,
two
but
and a
it's
half.
still.
You have to count out dinner time.
But it's still.
Yeah, it was fairly long. But
quite long. That said, at the end of that game, we were down to literally the last turn that we could do stuff, and it was like, okay, we only have 2 locations left where the bad guy could be because we found him already. He had been reshuffled, and then it's like, okay. God damn it, I'm going here, and there he is, and then he beats the villain, and we're all excited, and now all we have to do is to close the other 2 locations, and then we do that, and we win, and everybody was like, yeah, and then loot, and so there's some really great aspects about this, and if you put in a little bit
your own flavor of the gaming group.
If you bring your own theater group, so to speak, that game benefits from that.
Yeah.
If you're sort of voicing the characters or doing some funny stuff with them, talking about the encounters as if they're not just cards you drew, but you are actually whiskey, so we meet again. And do all that. It's certainly to the benefit of the game. Yeah. While that might have sounded negative with the other things I said, I still really like that game. I actually think about that this might be difficult to play through, going through all the scenarios if it takes so long to play them. But I actually want to see more of that. I want to see more and hopefully see a little bit more also in terms of gameplay mechanics being added to that. I've seen from some of the previews there might be some more stuff to it, but fairly I don't want to spoil myself on this, so I'm not looking too deep into what's coming up in the future expansions.
So let's make 1 to awesome. Where is that game rated for you?
This one gets I would give it 3 whiskeys out of 2 scotch.
And now for every other person that does not know your preferences.
Clearly this game only deserves 1 thumb down, because almost every time we play she dies, and if I don't say that, my life will be forfeit.
But that was for the next chapter. No, now you've taken it away. So no, go for a real rating that anybody can understand, that does not know your whiskey preferences.
Well, it's whiskey. So
yes, I know, but you said whiskey out of scotch. So go for a real one, and do that before I have to cut the video again. Come on.
No, I'm. Don't you like my rating scale?
I like it, and I know it, but the rest of the world, I would like.
I think I described what I like or don't like about this game. Fair enough. So you get 2.5 dwarfling thumbs to the side. that's my rating. And you?
Sometimes I don't like him. But hey, okay. No, if in the female world we do have scales from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, or also called awesome, and 1 being like, oh my gosh, I can't stand it. And this one gets 8 3/4 because it's fairly up in my rate of games that I really, really like and can't wait to replay. But here's a little downside thingy. I like it more with 4 players and not with 2, which we're gonna talk about in a sec. And that limits the playability to once, maybe twice a week for me. And yeah, that's why. But otherwise, really cool game.
We have to. Yeah, as you already said, I also prefer that with 4, although I didn't mind it with 2. The problem, my problem with 2, or playing this with 2 while playing also with the other guys with 4, is you really want to level your character.
Yeah.
And if that is not part of the experience, because that is pretty much for every cooperative game, be it a board game or be it a video game. If you start leveling your character before the others get a chance to do so and you out-level them, that sort of draws down the entire experience for the whole group. So you can't sort of work ahead with your character. No. You could start with a different character, but then again, as I said, I don't want to spoil myself too much. I mean, there's some merit to having this being the first time you encounter some bad guy and finding out what he's actually doing, what his trick is. And
and it's really difficult. Well, if in case we said, okay, we are going to have 2 different characters just for the 2 of us for other plays, and we get ahead of the group, then when we play with the group, we already know the villain, we might have some tips and tricks, and then we spoil the whole experience with the group, and we can't really get around that, because that thing is in your head. When you know something, you know something. How can you ignore it? So, and
also the other way is not that terribly useful. I mean, it's a fun game, but I don't see myself replaying scenarios over and over again.
No. And actually, I think when I compare the 2 games that we had, the first one was just the 2 of us. Second one was also with our gaming group.
No, we played 2 games together.
Right. In the gaming group, just because we have those funny guys with us, it's way more hilarious. You get into your character way more, which feeds into the role-playing part of that game, and that actually is benefiting the game. Just with the 2 of us, we didn't get into the characters as much, because also we were not leveling them up, and the conversation at the table was only technical with us, like, how can we beat them, can you help me here, can you help me there, but very cool, very
how do we beat the game?
Yeah, how do we beat the game? Very effort driven.
Is this a role-playing experience?
And with the guys, it was one of our guys, for example, played Valeros, and Valeros has in his character description that he grew up on a farm, and something happened there, so he never went back and went soldiering instead. But in our scenario, we had a farm as a place.
He has to go there.
So he has to go there, and we all said, well, you gotta go through that place. You gotta go get the girl and maybe have a little fun around noon.
I need me some sheep.
Some sheep, right? Or I don't know, a farmer's lady. I don't care. And so that was pretty much all the fun around it, which made the game really, really cool and partially hilarious to play. It's like, of course, the other thing that's always funny, it doesn't matter if it was the game just for us 2 or in the group, our ability to roll dice very well was again a factor that
I haven't talked too much about it. I know some people actively dislike the game for being so dice rolly.
I actually like it.
I like it.
It's a luck factor.
It's as much as I also enjoy the cold calculus in a game like Sentinels, where you already okay, if I'm playing this card, I'm doing this exact amount of damage to everybody, and then doing that. There's some suspense that you cannot replicate just with cards, even if you do some random cards draw stuff to determine some number. Rolling a die has its own merit, and that's one of those points. Either you like it or you don't. Most of the times I actually don't like it that much if it's leaves me with a feeling that I should have progressed, and everything that's holding me back is just the sheer being unlucky with die rolls. In this game, that's not too bad because you can still influence your die roll, and you can make a statistical approach to that, saying, yeah, if I play those cards, I raise my chances at succeeding by probably this and that much. Is that worth to me? And that is an interesting decision that is very to the benefit of the game.
Yeah.
So I like the dice rolling in this so far.
I really like it a lot. Otherwise, it would have... I think the dice make the balance of the game. Because otherwise, when you level up and you have weapons and armor and whatnot, it's very likely that you win against a monster or a henchman or the villain first try. And that takes away so much fun of the game. And... like the nervousness, can I beat him? Can I get rid of that fucking goblin that hit me with his axe twice already? When you just say longsword and you're done, where's the fun in that, right? You gotta go with the dice there and say, do I fumble it? Do I slash some great sword swinging things over that goblin's head and kill him instantly, or do I maybe just give him a little tap on the back? Reenactment
helps a lot.
Yeah, helps a lot. So, and I think the dice make that reenactment smooth.
And at this point, I have to remind ourselves that we really try to be a little bit quicker and more on point, and we haven't been on point now.
We might, if I cut out all the crap, it's like, hello, bye. 2 minutes, done. And that was Pathfinder.
Hello, two dwarf thumbs on. Bye.
That could be a teaser. No, great. So I actually think we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
We're gonna play definitely some more of that game. Also, our friends said that they wanna really level up. So that's really cool.
And we might.
I'm looking forward to other adventures as well.
We might at a later point, once maybe if we get one of the expansion packs or have a little bit more of those games under our belt, come back to this and talk about.
Maybe other adventure sets only.
Yeah,
how they go.
Or how we still like the game, or if our opinion changed.
Yeah. So I think that's that. We're gonna say goodbye, and once this lovely video is edited, I can promise you, dear husband, we're gonna have a game night tonight. I'm hungry for a board game after so many weeks of not being able. So. Goodbye, take good care. If you have any questions, let us know. Anything that you might want us to talk about, just throw it my way. And if it's somehow able to be filmed, we're gonna do it probably. And otherwise, have a very good week. We're gonna see you next Sunday on this lovely Gamers Couch, and I'm going to see you on the Talk O'Clock later tonight. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.